The current best rivalry in the AFL is blank.
Oh, jeez.
You're gonna piss people off no matter what you say here.
For pure entertainment, this is going to throw some people off. For pure entertainment over the last 5 years, it's got to be the Western Bulldogs GWS Giants because
Ooh,
it is it is
yeah.
it is kind of artificially put together because they played each other so much, but there's a genuine dislike of each other, and
There
it's
is.
almost it's so genuine. It's kind of awesome. I mean, you've got the prototypicals everybody talks about, but I mean, Collingwood Carlton. I mean, really hasn't been much of a rivalry because Carlton has been down so much.
Hmm.
I think, unfortunately, with a majority of the media, as we kind of discussed, I think that the showdown kind of gets put down a little bit. But I think, again, the Adelaide teams always have great games.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's the greatest rivalry because, I mean, it's not something everybody talks about. It's kind of a South Australian. I mean, it's kind of a South Australian thing, and everybody else
Mm.
kind of eh. I mean, you can't really say that the Sydney Derby is the Battle of the Bridge, or whatever acronym you want to use
I
for
don't know.
that
It's
one.
a super
I mean,
underrated rivalry. That's why I know. Mm.
it's become more competitive over the years as
Yeah.
GWS has gotten stronger, and I think there's been some spite to it. But if I go over the last 5 years, the two teams that I'd have to say I love seeing the games being played between the two. It's the Western Bulldogs GWS because, like I said, there's just this natural spite between the two of them because of how many times they've played each other. So, like I said, it's a little off the wall on that one,
I wasn't
but
expecting
but
that.
that one's the one that I would say.
I'm never going to
Well,
complain
it's
when,
like I
when
said,
my,
it's a,
my
it's
boys in orange and charcoal get in the spotlight because they hardly do. You're the only media member that I know
well,
that
and
actually talks about them more than once a year in a positive note.
well, and I unfortunately, I wish it was so much more competitive. But the Q Clash up in Queensland between Gold Coast and Brisbane sometimes could have some pretty good spite there for a while. But as Brisbane has ascended to its ranks that it has over the last couple of years, unfortunately, Gold Coast has been kind of left behind a little bit.
Hmm.
But I mean, those first few years, man, there was some spite and some spiciness in that Q Clash. That was always fascinating to watch. So.
I freaking love that. It feels like when I'm watching GWS play the Doggies, it feels like I'm watching my Denver Broncos play the Raiders. They hate each other, and it's really a lot of fun to watch. But
And that's not
statement,
hyperbole.
no, no, it really isn't. But statement number two is that we can infer blank from Geelong's comeback win against Collingwood.
Oh,
We
some
can
people are
infer
not gonna
that
like
the
this.
Medi
I
sub rule
say
is bad.
we confer very little from this comeback.
Ooh,
Like,
okay.
legitimately, I take very little from it because that's just what this Geelong has been known to win. Sometimes they pull games out of a body cavity. I really shouldn't say its actual name on this podcast. It's just kind of, you expect a team of their quality, a team of their experience to pull that one out. And this is a young whippersnapper Collingwood team that's kind of, they had to take their lumps. They have to learn. So I take very little out of this game because, again, I don't know, is Geelong a great team? Are they a good team? Or are they a lucky team? Because they beat an Essendon team that a lot of people, a lot of stock in, and it hasn't shown. They go up to Sydney. If they kick straight, they spoil Buddy's night, but they didn't. So they drop a game against Sydney. So some people would say, well, you kind of can confer from that. And then this one, they play a Collingwood team, a young up and coming Collingwood team that's got a lot of momentum. They've won a couple of games, not exactly the most marquee opponents, and they kind of surprised Geelong, but Geelong's experience comes out and they get a win. So I take very little from this. Again, I want more experience. Like, I'm really looking forward to these next few games. Like, this game against Brisbane is a measuring stick both for Brisbane and Geelong, because whoever wins this instantly is in that conversation with Melbourne at the top of the table. So we'll have to see how that goes. So I'm fascinated, but I'm going to take very little from this win because I look at the overall body of work, and I'm still not 100% sure what Geelong is right now.
I love that. And then the last statement we got for you guys this round is Blake is an unsung hero from the first 3 rounds. And I know who I think it is. Let's see who you think it is. No bias on my side.
This one I've had trouble. I've had trouble because most of the people that I would put my thumb down on, they're not unsung. They're guys everybody's talking about. Like Jared Lyons for the Brisbane Lions has been absolutely fantastic for them, playing well. Lockie Neal, I mean, back to his back, he kind of has had a bounce back year for them and played really, really well. I go to it. You go to Carlton, Paddy Cripps, but Cripps is the guy they talk about. Honestly, the guy I would honestly say would be Carlton's Wiedemann, their fullback, because I mean he's just been absolutely fantastic. He gets that big mark to save Carlton's bacon against Hawthorn in this game this last week. It's hard to argue if he doesn't make that mark, Hawthorn goes down, scores, and I think Hawthorn wins that game. Let's just be honest with it. He doesn't make that mark. I think Hawthorn scores and Hawthorn wins that game, and it kind of airs out the tires a little bit on Carlton's wagon, the bandwagon that is the Carlton Blues to potential finals. I mean, there's memes, Carlton fans lining up for grand final tickets already. I mean, it's already going nuts.
You guys do it, man. Have your fun.
Well, as much pain as they went through, you got to, like I said, the Carlton fans that I know, they're absolutely elated, and I'm happy for them. But again, there's still so many games left to play. Let's dial it down just a little bit. I mean, there's still 19 games. There's still 19 games still left to play. Let's cool our jets a little bit. But I would say Wiedemann would be the guy who their fullback would be my unsung hero, because he's just done what they've needed to do in the back, and I worry that if he goes down, it could derail Carlton, a lot like what's happened with Aliir and Port.